Hello, world. It's been a while. My name is Daniel Rucker here on True Table, and this is my channel. I wanted to get back into it. Forgive me for being absent for a few weeks. There is a lot of what I'm trying to collect as content, as the direction of my channel, my thoughts, my particular contribution to the conversations that are relative to our society right now, and moving forward. I feel, well, the reason why I started this channel, just to give you a little background, is that I feel that I have a particular outlook and perspective on multiple subjects, particularly relationships. And so I like to add my voice, my perspective in on these conversations. And that's the whole point of this channel. That is the whole point of why I do this, is the whole point of why I will continue to do this. I am in a position now to where I'm trying to find my own identity, and I need you guys' help in order to find that position, that arena, to where I will be considered most relevant, most helpful. So please, when you get a chance, hit the like button down at the bottom, subscribe, share my videos, share my content, comment, and let me know exactly what it is that you would like to hear about and what you would like to get from what I can deliver, what I can add to it. But today, so that I can get started, there'll be some changes coming to the channel, meaning things that I want to remove limitations on. Most of my videos I try to keep within a 15-minute time frame due to the understanding as well as the consideration of my viewers and what you guys have going on. But there are going to be some topics, like the topic today, that I'm just going to flow. May even come off as a rant, maybe be a little bit more of just venting. I'm not going to watch the clock. I'm really just going to expand upon my thoughts and what I feel needs to be said relative to this conversation. So let's get started. Are black women really angry? Is the topic of today's discussion. And I think it's very much in line. It's very much relevant. It's something that is constantly coming up. I don't care what's going on in the world. We always seem to go back to this particular societal norm or stereotype or whatever you want to call it, that black women are angry. And in some of my studies and research, which is content, not even just research, if you just are halfway existing online and then you read things that come across your feed or Instagram or whatever, you hear about celebrities and people of tremendous influence that have opinions. And one particular person that I know within the last week made a comment or comments was 50 Cent, Curtis Jackson, on Lil Wayne's channel relative to what he was talking about. More so not black women being angry, but he was talking about his preferred appetite for the aesthetics of women and how some women are exotics and black women weren't, and neighborhood looks and things like that. The backlash of what he received for those comments is where I want to kind of park for a second and dig into, because this man, being a black man, being a successful black man, also being on the channel of another black man, successful black man, made comments relative to his appetite for women or his outlook on women just from aesthetics. And what he received from that was nothing shy of, ugly, aggressive. It came from all angles. There were for some people who I know just off the top of my head, and forgive me if I'm not as informed as I need to be. Some of this information, I just stumbled across, moments ago. Some of it as late as last night. And I was just kind of gathering and more so trying to digest and kind of, okay, what's going on? But I know that the comments were made and the backlash that he received has come from all different types of people. Vivica Fox being one of them, and if I'm not mistaken, she was one of the women that he actually did date some years ago. But she had an opportunity to comment on what 50 Cent said relative to, exotic women, black women. And she was on a show, a panel of 4 other women. I believe it's Fox Soul. I forget the young lady's name who was the host, forgive me. But I know she has a relative channel. Go when you get a chance, check it out. Some of the content is really good. I've been informed about some things that they talk about. But anyway, they run a panel. And I watched the response. I don't feel that Vivica, it was Lisa Ray, what's that lady's name on top of my head? Selena Johnson, and then the host. And anyway, I don't feel that their response necessarily was angry. I don't feel that even Vivica's response was angry. I feel like it was had a pot shot. I feel like it was very somewhat expected. Her having a past with this gentleman, her being a black woman. Everyone has an opinion. That's fair, that's fine. But what I find interesting is that this was a particular panel of 4 black women, 4 successful black women, and there seemed to be a consistency of perspective on what he said as well as what he felt, or what they perceived him to feel, assumed that he felt. I think the only person who I felt was a little bit more objective in her delivery was Lisa Ray, when she was saying that, a man can like what he likes. His preference is his preference. Let it be. And I agree. But to tie back to what I wanted to talk about in the sense of the problem, or more so the societal stereotype that is constantly said, that black women are angry, or why are black women so angry? I can't really tell you from a place of experience, one, not being a black woman, but a place to where I can say with real emotional experience, again, me not being a black woman, why black women are angry. I don't particularly feel that black women are angry per se. I do think that there are things that occur, multiple things that occur. I think that there are, certain types of expression that sometimes is delivered from my community, particularly in this case, black women. And I think that with the bravado, with the delivery, with the verbiage, sometimes it can be perceived as angry. We live in a society now, and I can't talk about this particularly. We live in a society where white is right, calm is better, don't ruffle feathers, don't shake leaves, don't rattle the fences, don't disrupt the norm. Well, the social norm. And who's placing the standards on the social norm? Well, that's whoever's controlling the media. And 9 times out of 10, the media is being controlled by the powers, people who are behind the camera controlling the narrative. And with that, sometimes people, like, particularly in my community, and going back to what I was saying, I can speak from this personally. Me being a black male, I automatically come with an expected, demeanor from a societal standpoint. Without me ever even speaking, I am automatically locked into a perspective that if I'm dealing with someone who is non-black, if I was able to journey into their mind, and a lot of times if you are black, like myself, you experience a lot of discourse, or an initial discourse that is not always verbal. Sometimes it's cues, sometimes it's gestures. But unless you're in constantly in the position to view it, constantly around other black people to maybe view it. If you are conscious like that and aware like that, then you'll see it. If you're not, then it's hard to see it, because it's not something that is necessarily, how to say, like a notification, like an alarm doesn't go off, or nothing falls from the sky. It is sometimes the eyes of a person that you're interacting with. Sometimes it is the placement of where they choose to either put an item. Like, for example, sometimes women, if they're around a black male in a close proximity, like an elevator or an escalator or something like that, depending on that woman, sometimes they showcase body language that gives off this interpretation that they're afraid. So they may clench their purse or move it, or I've seen so many different things. I'm a hyper aware young man, and sometimes they can go from not having a phone call to pulling the phone out and calling someone to maybe make them feel safe, or whatever it is. So why are you talking about this, Daniel? Well, I'm talking about this because I'm trying to not necessarily dispel what is being known as black women being angry, or are they being angry, but I'm trying to explain that sometimes it's not always in its natural state a conclusive truth, like across the board. I'm a person who likes to talk from a place of hard facts, things that are collective. I've had different conversations in the past with people collectively, and sometimes even women, that you can be talking about facts, or you can be talking about a particular topic, and they want to dispel the facts because an isolated incident or a personal experience trumps the facts. One isolated incident don't trump the facts. An isolated incident is just that, it's an isolated incident. So if they say 98% of people in this region of the world experience this, and then your auntie doesn't, that doesn't dispel the facts. Like, that's just an isolated incident. The facts are still the facts. But anyway, back to what I'm saying. Sometimes I don't think that it's just that black women are angry. I think that us as a collective community gets a bad rap for isolated incidents, or having the unfortunate position of a media presence, or being famous, being well known, being popular. Sometimes there is a hyper concentrated focal point that is the response of those individuals. So what are you saying, Daniel? What I'm saying is that sometimes, if you had one woman who just so happens to be black, and just so happens to be angry at that moment, and just so happens to be showcasing that anger, depending on who she is, she could get locked into the societal expectation, or the stereotype that is linked to she's angry. Well, maybe at that moment she is angry, but that doesn't mean that collectively all black women are angry. Just like not all black men are drug dealers or rapists and all the other things. And we can go into a lot of series of stereotypes and so on. But for this particular show, I want to kind of hone in and focus on this particular topic. 50 Cent made comments relative to the aesthetics of other women. What he said is exotic compared to black women in the neighborhood who may not be, to his interpretation and to his perspective. What I found interesting was the response, though. The response, and not in all cases was it negative, because I did read on the Twitter feed that Reginae Carter, which is Lil Wayne's daughter, she responded, I am exotic, I am beautiful, I am strong, something along the lines. I'm paraphrasing, Queen stand up. And it wasn't a response, in my opinion, that was demeaning. It wasn't, in my opinion, a response that was that lacked some level of clarity, she was able to convey her thoughts without jabbing at him, without tearing him down. So back to what I was saying about Vivica. Vivica's response to what 50 Cent said was a little bit more on the immature side. Her being a woman of age, her being a woman of clout, her being a woman of fame, I would expect at her particular place in life and level, again assumed because I've never interacted with this woman, that she would have a level of maturity to be able to do what Regina Carter did. And I think that's where the issue sometimes lies. You know, Vivica's response was he has, fuckboy tendencies. Okay. That delivery of, again, her opinion, that's fine. You can have it. But just with that, that's where her mind went. And I think that's the concerning part. So, I'm at about the 15-minute mark. But again, we're just going to flow. In my experience, being a black man, I was raised by a black woman. I have a sister, black woman. I have aunties and, cousins who are black women. In my experience, I have not had the same type of upbringing or I haven't had the same interactions from my immediate family, my mother, my sister, as maybe some other brothers have, some other people have. My mother is God-fearing, poised, classy, very mature, eloquent. And I'm not saying this just because she's my mother. I'm saying it because it's the truth. She is a representation of what a woman stands for. Not a black woman, a woman, in my opinion. She just so happens to be black. So I didn't get from my upbringing a angry, overbearing. These are again the societal stereotypes that black women are. Conniving, promiscuous, ghetto. No, that's not what I got. That's where she came from. That's her background. But that is not what she chose to live her life in alignment with. My mother took the route of spirituality and aligned with what she had gravitated towards on what God said she was supposed to be and how God viewed her. So the results were someone who was caring, compassionate, selfless, hardworking, someone who prayed, someone who was a woman of her word, someone who was supportive to not only her husband but to her community, loving and caring to her children. She was strong, definitely strong. Like my mom's a gangster, But in her strength, I never seen her, curse anyone out. I never seen her in fighting in the streets. I never seen her, representing herself in a way that was angry. I did, however, see her assert herself. And I think that sometimes, again, going back to what I was saying originally, depending on who you are, where you are, or position you hold, you may be just being yourself or a characteristic of yourself that is necessary for that situation. Some situations calls for assertive nature. I'm a testament to that. I feel I'm a person who is mild-mannered and I don't find myself in a position every day being angry or having to be angry. I'm actually a very happy person. But there are situations that cause for me to have to get assertive. There are situations that cause for me to have to, be aggressive. And in some cases, I think that the viewpoint is one that there is a societal essence that exists with certain stereotypes. So certain stereotypes already dictate the the perception of most people based on the fact that those stereotypes are being marketed and echoed through the media. Something occurs and then it's looped around the world, online or on a movie or on a show, and because people are so susceptible to TV and things, and not being able to separate fact from fiction or nonfiction from fiction, or what is acting and what is real, they take it like, oh, and it attaches to their psyche of being what is expected or what it is, and not really getting into a position to experience it for themselves. So what are you saying? Okay, so the comments in some way, shape, or form can be in alignment with the stigma that black women are angry. What I would like to do, continuing through this broadcast, is I would like to talk about what I think really is the issue, particularly with black women. And it's not one thing, there is issues that exist within our community. I would have to spend an abundance of time pulling it apart and speaking on it, and I may. But today I'm gonna try to stay within this arena. Anyway, what I think is the issue, what I think that sometimes people like Curtis Jackson and others who have spoken on or make comments relative to black women, and what their dismissal of them or their non-acceptance of them, or their choice not to date or whatever, tear down. I think they are still doing the people, and I mean people collectively, a disservice of not really talking about what I believe is truly the issue relatively when it comes to black women. I believe that, and this is based on personal experience, this is based on research, this is based on perspective, this is based on conversations I've had, conversations I've observed, situations I've observed. I believe that the biggest issue and the biggest divide comes from the fact that there is a toxicity that exists with black women. What do you mean by that, Daniel? Toxicity of the mind. There is a keen difference between how a black woman thinks, in my opinion, and how a white woman thinks, or how a Latin woman thinks, or how a Middle Eastern woman thinks, or how an Asian woman thinks. Now, we are all humans. We are all, Homo sapiens, and we are all people. What determines the perspective that is formulated? What determines the outlook? What determines the perspective? What determines, beliefs, viewpoint, and all of that? Well, it's environment. It's experiences. It's, the position in life that you were born into, the circumstances that you were born into, right? No one has control over what family you're born into. No one has control over what neighborhood you're born into. No one from birth has control over if you have, a mom and a dad, or you're born into a single family household, or you're born into a white household. No one has control over that. That is just a luck of the draw, right? But depending on what you're born into, depending on the circumstances that you are put into from birth and in your adolescent state, can have a direct effect on how you show up in the world and how you learn to navigate, learn to perceive things, learn to, interact with people, learn to believe, learn to dream, learn to think. That has to do with the environment that you're born into. And that's not a black thing, a white thing. That is a circumstance thing. So why am I bringing this point up? And why did you say moments ago, Daniel, that with black women, there's a toxicity that exists? Well, the toxicity is not again, a color thing. The toxicity is an environment thing. The toxicity is a circumstantial thing. See, we live in America. In America, I'm sure other parts of the world too. I've been to 15 countries myself, and I've seen different, aspects of class and, environment and whatnot. But I'll get to that in a minute. In America, there are different types of environments that yield different types of perspective. If you were born into an area or an environment that is designed to make you paranoid, is designed to restrict your ability to dream, to from the time that you can really start to understand what's going on around you, you are thrust into an environment that is hostile, that is unbalanced, that is malnourished, that is not how would you put it, Daniel? That is not tailored to aesthetics of what is representation of good. So, for example, you have your hoods, you have your suburbs. The hood and the suburbs are two completely different worlds. Why is that relevant? Well, it's relevant because depending on where a person is born and raised determines or can determine a lot of times where their mind will either grow or not. Like, the environment nurtures the perspective. The environment nurtures the cognitive range, for example. So depending on what environment you're brought into will determine what you interact with, will determine what you encounter. If you just so happen to be born in those suburbs, there may be a likeliness that you are going to be introduced to other aspects of thinking, other aspects of nutrition, other aspects of education, other aspects of family dynamics. The list goes on. If you were born into the hood, same thing. There is elements that exist in that environment that cause to understand that there's limited resources, that the education is struggling, that the family dynamics exist a certain way. So why is that relevant, Daniel? Why is that you're saying that these particular things, neighborhood wise, upbringing wise, your environment at an adolescent state can have a direct effect on your perspective? Well, because it's relevant. The toxicity that I talk about is something that supersedes color. If you have a Latin woman or a white woman or an Asian woman that is born into the same environment that a lot of our culture is born into, a lot of black people are born into and raised, the same type of temperament, the same type of perspective exists. When it comes down to the paranoia, when it comes down to the mannerisms, when it comes down to the perspective. This is not a color thing. It's not a race thing. This is a circumstance thing. Now, there are variables, and I'm going to talk about it. There is a huge disparity in the black culture where a lot of our children are born into single family homes, male and female. And particularly not having a father around, just off the bat, derails the structure that is necessary to best raise and position that child, whether that's male or female, from a psychological place. When you put a child into an environment, not just the neighborhood, but the household, and it's lacking male presence, that has a tremendous effect on the child. And so a lot of our sisters are in that environment. A lot of black women are born into that being the norm. That is their upbringing. They don't know what it's like to walk down the hallway and knock on their dad's door. He's not there. They don't know what it's like to be covered or protected by a black male, even something as simple as being your hand being held while you walk to school. They don't know that. Now they may see it on TV and they may, observe it on movies, but to know it is foreign to most little black girls. So they're birthed into an environment that is already lacking, right? And the same could happen with someone who's not black. This is a circumstantial thing. So in that breeds a lot of resentment and imbalance, image issues, securities and insecurities. It causes a lot of switches and movements in the mind to happen. And these are things that are internal. All of it is very internal. It is the reason why, even in my experience, and I say toxicity, to give you a little background on my dating experience. Anyone who knows me will tell you, I haven't really had the best of luck with dating black women. And some may be shocked on the other end of this channel, how come? Why not? I don't know. But I actually do believe I know. What I believe to be sometimes the disconnect is that, like I have mentioned earlier in this video, see, I wasn't born into the environment to where I didn't have a balance. I had mom and dad, both same household, both still together, both loving each other. It wasn't a hostile environment. I can remember maybe on 2 or 3 occasions in the 37 years they done been together where they actually fought and it was hostile, it was loud, I was outside and I could hear them, going back and forth. Maybe 3 occasions. But anyway, some of those 3 occasions that I remember was some people's every day. That was what they were. So if they just weren't fortunate enough to have their mom and their dad in the same household, whether they were boyfriend or girlfriend, long-term relationship, married, whatever, the environment still breeded, their process. Okay, so back to what I'm saying. I haven't had the best of luck of dealing with black women. And through, I would say maybe a few years ago, I actually started to explore this on why. Because I, like a lot of black men, and based on, again, my research and my experience, don't have any issues with black women, don't have any, nah, stay over there. That's not how most black men view black women at all, actually. They love black women. They love women, period. It ain't a black, white, men, especially brothers, they just women. It ain't got nothing to do with color. It's women. It's just hey, it's a woman. Hey, this is how we are. But anyway, through some of my interactions, what I found was there was a difference in interacting with black women compared to interacting with white women or Asian women or Latin women, mixed women, multicultural women, whatever. What was this difference? Well, one, the demeanor. What do you mean by that, Daniel? A lot of times what I observed, and again, I classify myself to be someone who is very, very aware and in tune with his environment, with people's, I have a way of interacting with people and I can just digest a lot of their mannerisms and things. And this is, a lot to do with the fact that I make it a point to be observant. That's how I was raised, to be observant. But I also had a lot of opportunities to be in different neighborhoods and different experiences. I mean, I started traveling the world at 14. Up to date, I've been in 15 countries. So I was constantly in different environments, and in those environments, I learned to read people, and try to like understand why they did this, or I question why they do this, or why do people stand like this, why do they talk like this, I questioned everything. Anyway, so back to what my interactions have been. My interactions with black women have been interesting, to say the least, and why I believe that is the truth, and that has been my experience here, is that kind of what I was saying earlier. See, it's when you talk about people, everyone has the initial what you see. You have the exterior, but everyone is different on the inside, here and here. And with black women, there is a unique difference in the way that they perceive things compared to their counterparts. And a lot of it, I believe, has to do with the toxicity I'm talking about. Toxicity could be perceived as a negative word, but it's not negative. It's relative. That the toxicity is of the mind. If you are in a state to where you always think someone is out to get you, you're paranoid. You haven't been shown true care. You haven't been shown compassion. You haven't been shown grace. You haven't been shown, positive. Then sometimes it's very hard to exist in even something as simple as an interaction and not be defensive. So why are you saying that, Daniel? Me being a black man and being in environments where it's been social, where either it was like a club or a lounge or even at the workplace, there has been too many interactions I've had with black women that have a different essence to it than it does when I'm dealing with someone who is not black. And I was talking to a friend of mine about this, and I was saying that, see, a lot of the indifference comes from things that are already going on with her that have honestly nothing to do with you as a black man. I feel like sometimes, and I used to tell my mother this because at one time she was, when I was dating, she had she was honest. She was like, you sure do like them Latin women, don't you? And I laughed at her, like, what do you mean? And she's like, well, no one we hear you talk about is black. Are you gonna date a sister? And she wasn't saying that because it was a preference of hers. My parents don't care. We weren't raised that way. People from the soul is what matters. If a person just so happens to be black, great. If they're not black and they treat you great and they're awesome, good. But anyway, and I remember telling her that it was very difficult to be me in my true form, just myself, and interact with most black women because there always seemed to be some level of strife, like some level of clashing. Now, what do you mean, Daniel, by strife? Well, that's what I mean, like a certain level of like a clash. And these weren't when I'm saying anything that is ruffling feathers. Like sometimes it could be as simple as, how you doing today? Like, and I kid you not, the response will be like, I'm fine, how are you? Or, why are you asking? And you're like, damn! Like, yo, I'm just asking you how you doing. So, sometimes, anyway, I'm telling y'all I'm flowing today. I'm just flowing today. So my mother asked me that, and at the time, I don't think I had a real clear understanding of even what I felt or what I thought to the level I have it now. What was the difference? Because on one hand, I was having success with non-black women. And what I mean by success is I mean by initial interaction, attraction, We may hung out for a few weeks, few months, dating. And I was the same dude, same guy. I ain't do nothing different, Some people would say, I've heard this. I don't think it's true. Well, you guys treat them different. Because I've heard this. Black men treat other women that aren't black different. That may be true, maybe not. I don't know. Me personally, I treat everyone equally the same. As far as what you get from me, I'm gonna handle you the same way. I'm gonna introduce myself the same way. But anyway, so back to what I was saying in the conversation with my mother was that the toxicity is what I noticed was the difference, because the same way I could say to, maybe a black woman, hey, how you doing today? And get, I'm fine, how are you? I would say the same thing to someone who was non-black, and they would just answer the question. Like, I'm fine, how are you? Like, it wasn't a combative response. It wasn't a defensive response. Now, I think I'm smart enough to know sometimes you don't always have the opportunity to catch people in the best state of mind. Who knows what that sister was going through. She could have got a bad phone call moments before I said something. She could hate the fact that she at the bus stop with me or in line. Who the heck knows? There's always something going on with people. But what I have found, again, is there still seems to be a toxicity that exists with my sisters compared to their counterparts. Now, what does this toxicity look like, Daniel? Okay, I'll give you an example. I believe this was a little over 2 years ago, maybe. I think it was like 2 years ago, if I'm not mistaken. And there was a time, well, I'm very, very transparent and straightforward, so just keep it funky with you. There's times now, especially before COVID, where I was out all the time and, here and there. I mean, I go everywhere, Pasadena, LA, OC, San Diego, all the time. I'm everywhere, partying, turning up. And every now and then, just to confirm that I wasn't crazy, I would be in that environment, and I would see, a black girl who I'm like, wow, okay, caught my eye, like, let me shoot my shot, right? And so I would do it just to see if I was crazy. Like, I'd do it just to be like, okay, it's not me, But anyway, so I shoot my shot, and 9 times out of 10, I get turned down. 9 times out of 10. There could be a number of variables on why that is. Some of it, I think, is the fact that I don't necessarily represent the stature standard for most women. Most black women, but specifically most black women. What do you mean by stature? Stature standard, Daniel. I'm not tall. I'm not 6'2", not 6'3", so I don't, in my opinion, represent the prestige that is associated with that particular standard. So I think that sometimes I'm overlooked, and that's fine. That's okay. I really don't care. But I'm making that a point to try to drive my point that, every now and then I would shoot my shot, to test, like, well, shoot, is it me or is it sisters or what? Like, and usually I got shot down. But anyway, a couple years ago, there was this young lady that I did meet, gorgeous girl, was in law school, immediate attraction. She was vibing, I was vibing. I was like, yeah, I want to get to know her, black girl. And so I was like, all right, cool. Open-minded to the where I wanted to pursue and get to know her, just like if I seen any girl that I was attracted to, no matter her nationality, I would the same. She just so happened to be black. So we hung out for a little bit. I think we went on like 4 dates over the course of maybe a month and a half. Really liked this girl. Intellectual, great family background. She didn't grow up in the environment that I was referring to earlier, with the imbalance. She had her mother and her father actually met them. They invited me over to dinner and everything. Like, it was more in line with what I grew up with, right? And so now, obviously, to give you some context to everything that was going on in my mind, I've had a lot of experience, dating. I've had a lot of experience traveling, and what I mean by a lot of experience dating, I've hung out with a lot of different girls from all over the world, like all over. And that is not to say that I've been necessarily physical with these girls. I don't want those people to get distracted. Dating is not, sex. Dating is dating. It's hanging out, getting to know people, socializing. But anyway, what again this taught me by being open and having associates and having friends and dating and stuff, dealing with women, is that I got a lot of experiences. I got a lot of different interactions I've had, which have helped formulate a standard. I already had a standard prior to this experience, but what has ended up happening is that through my vastness of experience, I've created even a more concrete standard on a positive side, that this is what I would like to receive when I'm interacting with a woman, like not a black woman, not a white woman, I don't care, a woman. I want to be treated in a manner and considered in a manner that is to my standard, and I felt that was fair. It was a universal thing. So anyway, back to the young lady that I met, the the young girl I was hanging out with that was black a few years ago. So we was hanging out. I liked this girl. She was cool, very promising. I was excited about her. I was like, okay, dang, this is great. I was even shocked because I just, at that point, to be honest with you guys, I just didn't think that I would ever interact with a black woman and actually have one success to where she actually was interested in me and I was actually interested in her, and it was mutual and it was positive and it was thought provoking. It was intellectual. I mean, we used to talk about politics and law and business and travel, and it was great. Like I was like, this is cool. This is where I'm at. Like I'm enjoying this. Now, what ended up happening? Because some may be asking, well, what happened to her? It wasn't anything crazy. It wasn't like we had a big blowout or we had a huge fight or anything like that. But what ended up happening, I was telling a friend of mine this story. What ended up happening is that I actually had made plans to hang out with her this particular day, and I think I had to work that day. So I worked, but anyway. So what ended up happening is that the headlights on my car went out. I had ordered the lights that I wanted online through Amazon, and I had an appointment to get them installed the day that I was going to go hang out with her and go to the movies. So I was supposed to pick her up at 7, and the movie started at about like 8, I think. Now, mind you, at the time where we resided, I'm 40 plus miles from her. And every date we've had, I went to her, picked her up, took her out, paid for everything, dropped her off. So at this point, this relationship was very one-sided. Some may be saying, well, it was only a month and a half. You're a guy, but what the heck ever. I'm just giving you guys some context so that you can try to understand my point of view, my mindset on why this particular relationship did not transition and grow and germinate from that point. So anyway, I had the appointment, got off work, went to AutoZone with the lights that I thought were the right lights. And it was very important that I got those lights installed that day because I had been driving my car for well over 3 weeks with my high beams on, and it just wasn't good. I wasn't liking it. It was draining my battery. It was problems. So I had explained all this to her, and she was like, all right, cool. Yeah, when you're done, just, let me know. I'll be ready. Whatever. Get to AutoZone around, I want to say it was like 4 o'clock. I'm a very diligent guy. I try to check in on things and try to have things very organized. I'm a very organized individual. So I had already checked in with them on how long it was supposed to take to get the lights done, to get the lights fixed. It was only supposed to take less than an hour, the guy told me, from start to finish. So I get there, they open the lights and open the box, and it turns out that I had purchased the wrong lights. I had purchased some HIDs or something that needed a harness, and it was the wrong lights. It was just the wrong lights, to keep it simple. And so I had to purchase a whole new set of lights from them. And because that day that they had stack of cars in front of me, end up taking actually it was going to take about 3 hours to finish. Not to actually finish the work, but the fact that the cars ahead of me were there and whatever, they weren't going to get to my car for 3 hours. Dude said 3 hours, almost up to 4 hours. And at this point, it was already 4 o'clock, supposed to meet with her at 7. Anyway, well, like I said, I wanted to get those lights done. So I was like, all right, man, go ahead and do the work. First person I'll call is the young lady. And I call her and tell her, you know what, maybe we need to reschedule. Maybe I'll have to see you tomorrow or, a few days from now. And I explained everything to her. Why? End up getting the wrong lights. They're telling me they're not going to be able to get to my car for 3 to 4 hours. By the time they're done, it's going to be 7 o'clock. Obviously, I'm supposed to pick you up at 7. The movie don't start till 8. I'm in LA. You're in the IE. 40 miles. A lot. She wasn't too happy about the fact that I was canceling plans. She wasn't mad. She wasn't indifferent. She didn't yell. She didn't scream. But she was disappointed. And, this is where I say sometimes the toxicity exists, where I had an expectation. She had an expectation. And when I explained to her that I was going to have to change plans, I'm not going to lie. My expectation was that her in her current position in my life, her in the place that I've placed her currently, my expectation was that she would be okay with the fact that we couldn't follow through with plans that, in my opinion, weren't that serious, weren't that deep. It wasn't like we were going to a concert. It wasn't a family-related thing. We were literally just going to the movies. It was like, we can go to movies any day. Not a big deal. But she was not too receptive to changing plans. So much so to where she was like, well, can't you just come and still follow through with the plans after you're done with your lights? And I told her no. And the reason why I told her no is because, 1, I had worked all day. 2, that wasn't my original plan. 3, I was over it at that point. To be honest, it was like, okay, I'm having to spend more money than I anticipated spending. I'm having to now wait almost 4 hours to even get my lights done. I worked all day. Then you want me to go home, shower, get dressed, and then drive 40 miles to take you to the movies? No, I don't want to do that. So we had a disagreement because she didn't like the fact that I canceled. I didn't like the fact that she wasn't being flexible. And from that, I had told her after the fact, it was like a day or 2 later, we talked about it. I decided I don't want to see her anymore. She couldn't understand why. I broke it down to her. Now, some on this video may be saying, well, that's not a big deal. You could have gave her the benefit of the doubt. You could have went out there and taken her on a date still. I could have. You're right. I am very objective. I wouldn't disagree with those who would say something like that. But in every relationship, there is 2 parties. There's a man. There's you and the other person. There's a male and a female, and every person should be, in my opinion, willing to, bring their best forward to make the flow of the relationship work, to make the flow of the relationship actually grow and build and expand. And in that moment, because I date consciously, what I was hoping to see was someone who was understanding, someone who was flexible, someone who was solution-minded, and not someone who seemed, in her reaction, so concerned and selfish about the fact that we were going to the movies. And that's all she wanted to do was go to the movies. Whether that was something that she talked about all day or thought about all day, there was variables. Some things changed. As adults, there's times that you have plans change. And I think I can go on record and say that most men, most black men too, sometimes just want you to just be cool. Just chill. Like, don't make a big deal off of something that's not a big deal. And she somewhat made a big deal off the fact that I was canceling plans, even though I didn't just say I'm tired or I just don't want to. These are the reasons why. She wasn't having it. It wasn't to her satisfaction of why she felt it was okay or allowed to cancel. Mind you, I'm grown and I don't need your permission to make plans and change them. I can do that. Like, that's allowed. My expectation also was something where if the plans were this, and this is why these plans need to change, and you want to see me so bad, I want to see you too, but you want to see me so bad, and you're the one that got a problem with the plans being canceled, then why don't you make a suggestion that can still allow us to see each other, that is not just one-sided on me having to make us see each other? Because she had a vehicle just like I had a vehicle. She had resources just like I had resources. If she wanted to see me that bad, in my opinion, and I had told her that, we can reschedule, she could have made the suggestion that, hey, where's the shop? Or what time? You said 3 hours, 4 hours? Okay. How about I just either come hang out with you while they finish, and then we can go do something around there, or I can come over after you're done, and we don't even have to go to the movies. We can just Netflix. We can get some food, pop some popcorn. We can chill at your house. That, in my opinion, would have been the solution to what it is anyway. You're trying to build something. You're trying to connect with a person. No, she was focused on the fact that she wanted to go to the movies, and that I was supposed to come get her, and that changed. So I ended up deciding not to see that young lady anymore. And that is a very mild example, right? But what I hope that I'm explaining correctly is that through whatever even her experience was, or through her perspective, or her mindset, or her outlook, she could not get past the fact that I changed plans and I wasn't willing to follow through with the plans on something as simple as going to the movies. And I didn't mention, but she was upset. She wasn't too happy. I didn't care if she was upset. No, it wasn't a big deal to me. But I felt that, how dare you get upset and then not have a solution to what I'm saying is the problem now. Through my experience, through my vastness of interactions, I have grown to see where different types of women, classifications of women, if that same scenario was presented, they would have handled it different. They would have been more inclined to put forth more effort, be a little bit more invested. And I think sometimes when you talk about my community of women, that is what's lacking. That is what is the difference between dealing with someone who is non-black and someone who's black. On top of the fact that, like what 50 was saying with the exotic looks and all that stuff, those are again variables. Black women are very beautiful. Most women collectively are beautiful, through all different shades and types. But I think that, specifically for me, and what a lot of brothers do not talk about, is that the indifference that comes with dealing with black women. There is an indifference, and I think that people like Lisa Ray, people like Vivica Fox, people like Iyanla, and all of those really need to talk about the indifference that comes with the black perspective from a woman's perspective, and then trying to somewhat understand the perspective of the male perspective. Because something was said in that talk with Lisa Ray and Vivica and the panel of women, Selena Johnson, that I found very interesting, and I was just like, wow, like, why do they think that? That's BS. It's not true. Well, what did they say, Daniel? What Vivica said when she was pot shot in 50 was that, well, yeah, you can't just handle a black woman. That's what it is. You run a little dog that is just gonna sit there and listen to what you say and let you do what you want to do. And I've heard that way too much. And I think it's asinine. I think it's stupid because there is this reputation. I'm sorry. There is this assumption that black women have spewed out as in my opinion, propaganda that black men just want some woman to just sit there, shut the heck up, and do what we tell them to do. And that's not true. Any man, not just black men, but any man, self-respecting man, wants a woman that has her own mind, that strong, that is poised, that's classy, but that's kind, caring, and considerate. And most black men, and again, I was having this conversation with a friend of mine, and I was flowing, just kind of just giving it to her, like telling her, like, this is what I think. And I'm doing the same with you guys. But anyway, I was explaining to her, never in my experience, and never in anything I've observed interacting with black men or men, but black men particularly, have I ever heard a black man brag about the fact that he just can't wait to get a woman that's going to get in his face and check him and tell him this and, put him in his place, as is said. I don't know where black women get that crap from, but that mess is asinine. It is what's causing the community to be at odds ends, to be opposing of each other. Because when I'm in the barbershop, when I'm around my brothers, when we doing what's called locker talk or whatever, and when it's black men don't brag about, man, she got in my face, man, she checked me, man, she told me what it was. Like, that's not what they talk about. The things that stand out in their mind are what a woman that they're interacting with, and this is not always black women, but any woman they're interacting with, what she did that was of a caring gesture to him. There's this misconception that black men don't want to be treated right. We do. Like, no brother wants a woman who's difficult, who's hostile, who's always got something to freaking say. That's negative. It's not about having an opinion. It's about the opinion. Why do you have to always have something to say that's negative? Nobody want to be around that, right? So, but Vivica took the opportunity to say that. And she's, again, a woman of age, a woman of clout, successful. She has an audience. How she got to that conclusion is, to me, interesting. I'm very curious. I would like the opportunity one day to talk to her, and really have her explain why she felt that in that moment she needed to utilize her time to, one, pot shot 50, and two, try to make a parallel, point that black men, or him particularly, but he is a black male, don't want to deal with, can't handle a black woman. Newsflash, black women are not that hard to handle. If handle is even the right word. In my experience, black women are the most tender women, period, when it comes to their emotional state, when it comes to their true nature. Now, they don't always let you see that crap, and that is a problem in itself. And again, this was a part of the conversation I was having with a friend of mine, that sometimes black women put up what I would call the crucible of task to get to who they really are. They want you to climb through the minefield, or swing from the branches, or swim across the ocean, jump over this hurdle and tackle this lion to gain their approval or gain their heart. And I'm gonna just be honest with you, that's too much work. Ain't nobody really got time to be trying to prove to you why I should have an opportunity to see you. And not see you, but see you. Like, see who you are. See what I get with you. See what type of experience I could particularly have with you. I've had several conversations with black women where they're talking in conversation with me, but then with, I have a lot of female friends. and they're talking to their girls, and they're like, yeah, I want. He was telling me that he was looking to. I'm just using an example because so many stories, but he was telling me he was looking to get this shoe or get this whatever, and I thought about doing it for him. I thought about just making that purchasing that or whatever and giving it to him, and then the friend would be like, well, why didn't you? Well, shoot, I only known him like 3 weeks, a month. Like, nah, I'm not gonna do all that. Like, that's too much. I ain't doing all of that, right? And so, what I would observe, and then I would even comment on it, but what I would observe was that sometimes black women place limitations on their true self in nature of what they're capable of showing you, but refuse to show you because they feel they have to separate. Like, if this is who I am, at when I'm in, like, I want to be with you. This all that comes with being with me, but this is at the year mark. You over here at the 3-month mark. So you got a ways to go before you get the full experience that is me. That is stupid. Life is too damn short to be trying to set up, in my opinion, difference in experiences compared to time. Like, I do agree that there should be certain things that you choose to do at later points in your relationship. That's not a time thing. This is later points in your relationship. Like, maybe don't buy a person a car, unless you could afford to do it and it ain't gonna cost you, any lack of progress, whatever. Because it's all, again, relative to what you can do. But there seems to be this conception, or perspective is a better word for it, with black women that if I have a man and I have his interest at this moment, he has my interest, but I'm gonna sit back and I'm gonna let him show me why I should be awesome. I'm gonna let him show me why I should show him that I see him like that. It's crazy. It makes no sense. And so what I've seen in the difference in experience, again, my experiences, is that dating women that aren't black, if they do move that way, they don't show you that. Or I don't hear about it. And that could be a part of it too, that maybe I just am not privy to the conversations that exist. Maybe black women are just a little bit more out front with it. Who knows? But what I will tell you is that they are not as restrictive with the gestures of who you get from them. And what I mean by gestures, it's not just tangible. Sometimes people get caught up on, the money and purchasing things. And I know that seems to be a huge issue in our community, period, is money. Like, God, money is like a neutralizer of things, but, we can talk about that at another time. But when I mean by gestures, I mean collectively. I mean, your character should be consistent and echo. If I'm trying to be with you, sweetie, if I'm trying to be with you, it is imperative that you, while you have my attention, to show me what I will be dealing with. Not put the benefit package way over here and say, well, when we get to this state of our relationship, to my level and standard, you get this version of me. That's crazy. And I've actually seen that happen. I've actually experienced it to where she would, and when I mean the black woman would purposely restrict herself from being who she truly is to me or to others, because she felt that what she was experiencing emotionally wasn't exactly in alignment with her already carved out recipe plan of what it's supposed to be in the time frame that she's concluded. Hey, it's supposed to be here for me to do this. It's crazy. It's stupid. That if you as society continues to move forward and society continues to progress, if black women don't understand and get that a man just simply wants to enjoy you, like all of you, and I know some people may immediately go to sex, like, oh well, no, I'm not just gonna be giving it up. Well, newsflash, most of the time when you're an adult and you're dealing in a relationship or you're dealing with any type of interaction, male and female, sex is part of the equation. I'm not saying go out there and just throw your butt and, your goods to anybody and everybody. What I'm saying is that be wise in understanding that a part of the experience may be sex, but a part of the experience is also kindness, consideration. Most of the time, just like the example I used with the young lady in the having to change plans with the date, what I wanted from her was consideration. What I wanted from her was understanding. That would have meant so much. That would have shown me who I'm potentially dealing with. That would have shown me that, you know what, she's considerate. And a lot of times, and brothers, I'm gonna hold y'all accountable for this too, because not enough brothers talk about that. They don't particularly communicate to our women, our black women, that, hey, I want to be considered. I want to be treated in a way that is considered. I want to know I'm important too. I want to know that you care too. That may sound too soft. It may sound too feely touchy, but it's what it is. Because anytime I'm like, yeah, and I said, and I know I got off top point, whatever. But like I said today, I'm on a flow. When I was in the barbershops and I've been in the conversations, the things that the men, especially brothers, brag about is always what she did. Dog, had a hard day, 12 hours. She texted me this and this and that, and I'm like, oh man, I just can't wait to, get off so I can just chill and eat. And guess what? She ordered me food or brought me food, like without me asking. Small, but large in the sense of she was concerned about you eating. Now, let me try to help y'all real quick. This man is capable of ordering his own pizza, ordering his own food, ordering his own whatever. Pretty sure he can handle feeding himself. And a lot of times, that's where I feel like my sisters miss it. See, it's not about what he's capable of doing and being able to satisfy himself. We as black people are very capable, period. We're capable. We came through a lot. But sometimes the same significance that you feel and you get from a brother taking interest in what makes you happy or what brings you joy, like a man maybe getting your nails done or getting your hair done, taking you out on a date, what that does for your inside, what that does for your esteem is priceless and it's impactful. That's what I have seen that lacks tremendously in my community. Black women don't seem to be looking for opportunities to show brothers they're important. They're busy telling us how we need to improve, telling us what we need to do better than. And that drives me to my next point. And this, I'm getting a little long-winded, but like I said, I'm going to flow today. I hope you guys are appreciating the content. I take this opportunity to say, please subscribe, hit the like button, share my content. I would appreciate, continuing to build and be able to reach more people and what the things I'm talking about, because I feel like it's important. I feel like it's relevant. So, you get an opportunity. You can find me on Facebook, True Table, TREU, TABLE. Same thing on my Instagram, True Table, TREU _TABLE. And follow me. Let's be friends. Let's take this journey together. What was I gonna say? So, so my last and final point, and I'm gonna wrap this up, is that one of the things that I was also talking to my friend about and saying that seems to be one of the main differences with being a black man and dealing with a black woman, especially in times where you are in discourse. not on the same page, not seeing eye to eye, is that when you're dealing with a black woman and there seems to be, a disagreement or a rough patch at certain points, sometimes, and this has been, again, my experience and a lot of other people's experience that I have observed. It doesn't matter how educated, it doesn't matter how religious, it doesn't matter how well read, don't even matter how old. Sometimes there seems to be, like, back to that thing I was saying about strife within black men, black women, black women, black men, whichever, that exists immediately within our community. That when a black woman is dissatisfied with the black man and she wants him to know that she's dissatisfied with him, the one word that no other nationality can use to express her disappointment with you or your viewpoint on how she sees you is nigga. And the word is used in such a powerful way to not give you praise, to not give you respect. It is to blatantly let you know how you're viewed or how you're acting or how she sees you. And I personally, that's one of my I wouldn't want to be called a nigga from no one. I don't use the word particularly. I don't let people use the word, with me, around me. I'm not one to promote that word. Those who use it, that's on you. But I just don't personally feel it's something of excellence. I don't think that it represents much that is on the side of positive, promoting positivity. And that's what I'm about, is promoting positivity, progressive thinking, growth. So back to what I'm saying, I have heard, I've seen, I've observed, a black woman, when she's mad at a black man, it's like, nigga, and you're like, whoa. And it's so powerful in what it brings to the stage. Because what are you trying to do with the expression of using that word? And what I feel you're trying to do is you're trying to, shock value or somehow, some way dismantle the man. Because in most cases, and again, this is an assumption, in most cases, if there's a disagreement, and hopefully you're mature enough to have a disagreement that doesn't lead to physicality. But if there was a physical comparison, most women, period, can't whoop no man. They just can't. No matter how bad you think you are, you just can't. So I think sometimes that word is used to, kind of get a response from the man in a way that is alarming, but to dismantle and to disrespect, all in the same tone, and obviously depending on, who you're around, who you're talking to, who you're chilling with, who your social circle, that word thrown around all day. I'm not that removed to understand that it is, as Jay-Z would say, a term of endearment, but that's subjective and relative. But it is interchangeable, because it is something that I feel is designed to do just what I said, to dismantle. When a black man does something to offend a black woman, and in some cases she will respond like nigga, to get his attention. But it's like a marking, it's the same thing as being like, what the fuck, or calling a woman a bitch. It's the same thing. It's to dismantle. It's like I wanna let you know, like, where it's at, where I'm currently seeing you. And that's why I say it's interchangeable, because at the same time it can be used as a positive thing if she's happy with you. A black woman is what I'm saying. But I feel that is something that still is existing in the community. There's a strife that's there. There is a almost a competition. Black men want to be received by black women, not challenged. To like Vivica's point, black men don't want a woman who he feels he has to compete with and feels she's gonna challenge him all the time. Every man wants to be in the company of a woman that he could admire, that he could bounce ideas off of, and that she could have challenge his thinking in a way that is progressive, in a way that is, broad. No man, especially black men, want to be challenged in a way that is a comparison of masculinity. I don't care how strong you are as a black woman. You are not a man. I don't care how loud you get as a black woman. You are not a man. And no matter how tall you may be as a woman, big you may be as a woman, strong you may be as a woman, you don't have a penis. You are still ill-equipped when it comes to the right equipment and genitalia. You are not a man. So, you'll hear brothers, I've heard brothers talk about respect, and the respect that they want from black women. And sometimes I think, unfortunately, the respect and the viewpoint of how maybe we're not saying it correctly, maybe we're not, carving it out and giving it to black women in a way that is easy to digest. But the respect we're talking about is in the receiving of us. If I introduce myself or try to introduce myself and you're not interested, you don't have to dismiss me in a way that is crippling or ugly. You don't have to do that, because if you were bold enough to put yourself in a position to want to shoot your shot with someone you found attractive, you wouldn't want him to call you all kinds of ugly or fat or girl, go get your own hair, or whatever he may use. You wouldn't want to hear that. That wouldn't be something that would be appetizing to your ears. And everyone knows universally that women are all about what they hear. Their diet for content verbally is huge. Like, the way it sounds matters and all that. I find that to be interesting, that's how they want to be handled, but then don't handle when it's someone who is not to their standard or liking or to their preferred aesthetic. So it's a universal thing. Black men want to be respected but received from black women. Black men want to be treated by black women. And treatment is subjective, but universal treatment, in my opinion, would come from a place of, consideration. You being concerned about him, asking him what he really wants, and then be quiet and let him tell you what he wants. Don't tell us what we should want. And I think that's what Vivica did, which I found to be very interesting, because it's a very consistent trait in my community, where black women a lot of times tell us what we want or tell us what we should want. Listen, like, we'll tell you what we want if we know that when we tell you what we want, you're actually going to be open to it and open to receive it, and not combative or not defensive or not trying to reformulate our opinion or desire. Like, we have the right to have desires. We have the right to have wants. We have the right to want what we want too. Just like there's several men on this platform and YouTube that talk about how black women, not just black women, but women period, will say, what they want in a mate. I want her to be 6'2", abs, make 6 figures, whatever. Cool. We don't go on and talk about, oh, you guys are, crazy for wanting that, and shame on you for wanting that. But the moment that we say, we want you to not be fat, and not have stretch marks, and not have 2 or 3 kids, or not be rude, then we're attacked. And anyway, now I got off on a little rant there. But what I'm saying in this post is that in this particular video is I'm trying to answer the question: are black women angry? That's still left to be determined. I was on Wikipedia earlier, and it actually, if you type in "angry black woman," it talks about it. I found that to be really interesting, kind of comical, because it explains from a historical place where they have gotten the perspective of how we as a society got here, how we have concluded based on media and based on slave days and based on black women's sassiness and their portrayal of what is assumed that black women are angry based on really the media and stuff. But to answer the question, are black women really angry? I think it has more to do with, like I was saying earlier, there is just a difference in dealing with black women, and a lot of times it's circumstantial. A lot of times it is not a black thing or a white thing or an Asian thing or a curly hair thing or straight hair thing or short. No, it has a lot, in my opinion, to do with circumstances. I would encourage black women that if you are a woman of an environment that caused for you to be or feel paranoid, not heard, not loved, not cherished, then they always talk about you gotta be the person, you have to be the representation of what you want to see in the world. If you want care, love, patience, compassion, classiness, support, then I encourage you to be that. I encourage you to show the example of that. And don't say that you are, and don't say that as a collective that, that's what we're doing. I don't agree. You see too much of the opposition, and you see too much of the blame game. You see too much of the pointing of the fingers. Black men just want to go date this girl and this. Well, no. Black men have options. Men have options, but black men definitely. I'm here to definitely tell you, as you are observing my video on my channel, me traveling to the countries I've traveled, I have concluded that black men are definitely the most universal man on the planet. And what I mean by that is that we do have options. We don't have to deal with just black women. We don't have to just date you. We don't have to just pursue you. And so this mindset that you don't have to compete, this mindset that you don't have to get into the arena and showcase your value and showcase why we should pick you is false. You do. If you want a black man, you have to show why we should pick you too. Just like the rest of the women do. It is a world we live in is competitive. The world we live in is all about showcasing value, and you're not just valuable just because you share the same hue or the same melanin that we do. It's false. I'm gonna go ahead and stop right there. I feel like I've taken up enough of you guys' time. I appreciate those who stay tuned and locked into the channel. I definitely want to continue to, express myself and showcase my thoughts on this channel. Like I said, for those who are not subscribed yet, please subscribe. It would be much appreciated. If you have any comments or any, things that you want to say at the bottom, leave your comments. I definitely appreciate it. This is Daniel Rucker with True Table, signing out, and thank you.